Hey everyone, today we're going to continue our series on the Serializer class in Ember Data 2.0. Specifically, we're talking about how to customize the JSON API serializer version of it, which is descended from the plain serializer. But if you're using the REST serializer or the active model serializer, you should be able to use most of what we talk about. So last week we talked about the normalizeResponse method, as well as all the child methods that have normalize, some type of thing, response. But there was one method we didn't go over, and that's normalize. And so you may be wondering, why would we use normalize? What is that good for? NormalizeResponse, as well as the other methods in that family, are primarily concerned with the response as a whole. You can see this by the fact they ask for the primary model class and the request type, and that's how they sort out which of these secondary methods they'll send it to, is through the request type. And the ID, that's the main ID of the request. So we're looking at the entire thing. Normalize, on the other hand, is just for one JSON API object. So what's the difference between that? So here, this book is a JSON API object, everything between this and this. But also, this quote is a JSON API object, as is this quote, and this quote, and this quote. So here, we have 5 JSON API objects, and it's going to process each of these individually with a normalize method. Let me prove that to you. We're going to put a normalizeResponse and a normalize method in both the book and the quote serializer, and we're going to log out once for every time that we go in there, and we'll see how often each one is called. So we'll go ahead and go to our book route, our books route, and we'll see that normalizeResponse is called once for the book, because that is the response that we're getting from the books route. Then normalize is called 3 times, once for each book. And then normalize is called for quote 9 times, once for each quote. And if we do it for quotes, okay, there are 2 things here. If we scroll up, we'll see that we get the normalizeResponse for a quote once, because that gets called once per response. Then we get 9 quotes, and then we get some errors, and that's because, well, we have the model name kindling, and we fixed it in the /books in the books find all and find record response. But books have been included within the quotes response, and normalizeResponse on books didn't take care of that. So if I had completely understood the serializer before I started on this screencast, I would not have chosen type as the one to change from book to kindling. I would have changed the ID or the attributes or the relationships, because the type is the one place where Ember Data does not have your back if it's going to change. Because as you can see, it's failing before we even get to normalize. It's trying to call normalize, but it can't find the model for kindling. And so if you want to do this, if you want to rename a type, you'll have to actually change it in every single normalize response, because it uses the type class to find